Hey everyone, it's Rod Santomassimo with the Massimo Show. And I'm going to say Jordan Harbinger, and you're going to say, oh my God, you're kidding me. And I'm going to say, no, really, he's on my show. So now, if you're one of the few out there who don't know who Jordan is, you better hang on because you need to know who this young man is. 100% so true. So let's get to it. Hi, this is Rod Santomassimo, and welcome to The Massimo Show. The objective of The Massimo Show is to share how you can maximize your personal, professional margin. That's right, let's make more money in less time. Let's turn chaos into clarity, confusion into confidence, and income into real wealth. Along with sharing my insight on how I grew a multi-million-dollar professional business, we're going to bring you the expert advice from a variety of authors, consultants, and thought leaders who will provide the tools you need to maximize your own personal and professional margin. Welcome to The Massimo Show. Jordan, welcome to The Massimo Show.
Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. Bringing a lot of energy for this time of day, too. I can dig it.
There's got to always be energy. Jordan, I always start figuring out, who is this guy? So, Jordan, I'm going to take you back. For you, it's not too long. For me, it's a long time. High school Jordan Harbinger, where were you and what the hell did you want to do then?
High school, I was thinking, hey, so at what point are they going to teach us where we can find jobs and what we should be doing with our lives and all that stuff? And nobody had a clue. And I thought, am I employable? Because I'm not really sure that I'm employable. And then I thought, okay, I have plenty of time to figure this out. And then I just kept getting in trouble until my family was finally like, hey, you can't just do bad stuff until the end of high school, even if you're getting good grades. So I went on a foreign exchange to Germany, which was life-changing. And thank goodness I did, because I look back now and I go, holy smoke. I was 1 year away from getting arrested for sure.
Okay, so high school, looking for what are we doing this for? Which I think still we all ask that question in high school. But the audience doesn't know this, shame on you. But then you go off and you also understand there's some value to education. You get your law degree from University of Michigan, and the next before you know it, you're a corporate Wall Street lawyer. And then before you know it, you have a podcast with 11 million downloads a month.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's repeat that. I think people think maybe I misspoke. So I'm going to repeat that one more time. 11 million downloads a month. Jordan, how does that happen? How do you go from what am I going to do? What am I here to where you are today?
The podcast started as me wanting to learn more about networking and relationship development. And I worked at this Wall Street law firm, and the partner there, let me back up a little bit. In high school, I could show up for the test and get like a B+. And then in college, you couldn't do that anymore. I couldn't do that anymore because everybody was smart enough to show up to the test and get a B+. And so it no longer worked. And so what I ended up doing was having to outwork everyone by studying. And luckily, I grew up with a good work ethic in my household, and I had no problem doing that. Then you get to Wall Street, and it's everyone's smart. Everyone could show up to the test and probably get an A or an A-, and they're willing to work 7 days a week, 16 hours a day. So I was like, uh-oh, my competitive advantage is gone. And I assumed that I was going to get fired. I figured that my colleagues and those senior to me in the law firm were thinking, like, how did this idiot get hired? It was imposter syndrome, classic imposter syndrome. Some warranted, probably more than others. I met with one of the partners who had hired me. His name was Dave, and he was never in the office. And I was like, okay, Dave's a young partner. He's never in the office. If I can work from home, then I can figure out exactly what it is that people do around here to not get fired, while working enough. Basically, I can make myself scarce enough where they don't have enough exposure to me to know that I don't belong there, but I'm still working there. And so I was like, I got to figure out that. So Dave said, when I asked Dave, how do you work from home all the time? What's the cheat code here? He was like, oh, I'm not really working from home that much here and there, but I'm actually doing a lot more to drive business for the firm. And I was like, what does that mean? I'm doing jujitsu. I'm going with the investment bankers. I'm playing racquetball, squash, whatever it was. I'm going with the investment bankers. I'm playing golf, doing it with potential clients. Going on a charity dinner cruise, doing it with potential clients. And I was like, oh, okay. How do I do that networking thing? And of course, this is where the train stops, because he goes, just be cool, man. And I was thinking to myself, you realize that I'm a law student, right? Or a recent law school grad. If I could just be cool, I wouldn't be sitting here in front of you right now. I would have a different job, or I'd be doing something else entirely. I wouldn't be like a 27-year-old guy who's had 6 girlfriends in his entire life, or whatever I was by then. I would have done the just be cool thing a lot freaking earlier than that. I knew that advice wasn't going to be very actionable for me. So I tried to read between the lines, and I started learning things about body language, nonverbal communication, persuasion, influence. And I took these Dale Carnegie courses, and I took these sales courses and things like that. And they were okay. But I quickly realized that if I'm going to learn how to pull in multi-million-dollar deals from Goldman Sachs to my Wall Street law firm, I'm not going to learn it from a guy wearing a sweater vest at the Learning Annex on Tuesday nights,
right,
who's never had a corporate job, who's like an aspiring life coach that's doing this to pay the rent. That's where I realized this isn't going to happen. So I started to go back to first principles and was like, if I'm going to learn nonverbal persuasion skills, I need to learn it from really good salesmen. I need to learn this stuff from people who wrote books on influence. So I started to read all those books, contact a lot of those folks, and learn directly from them, because I just knew there wasn't a class on doing this, which is why those people who can bring in deals for a firm are so valued. Because there is no book you read, course you take. There's no Skillshare online. There's no masterclass for this stuff. And you hire for it, and you keep those people around forever and promote them to the top of the organization if they can bring in business. And you make them a partner at age 37 if they're bringing in business. And you pay them more than the other partners if they're bringing in business. You do whatever you can to keep those people around. So it became my life's mission to be that person, because that person's indispensable. And later on, when my law firm, which was heavily leveraged at the real estate, finance, and derivatives and things like that, when the crash came, I simply, first of all, they laid off everyone, and then the firm went out of business. But that partner, Dave, he jumped ship and worked at another law firm as a partner. And a lot of the other partners in the law firm, super nice guys, hardworking, a lot of them were in their 50s. They retired, in air quotes, because what are you going to do when you're a partner and you're a workhorse partner, but you don't have your own book of business? You are done. Nobody needs real estate finance experts in the middle of a recession who don't have their own book of business.
Yeah.
So those guys were punished by the recession, and I had a front row seat for that. And I was like, okay, whatever organization I go to, I have to be the rainmaker. And those were the skills that I started to learn. That was what I started to focus on, because I realized that's the ultimate job security. Because even if the whole economy crashes and you end up in the worst recession in decades or in a generation or whatever that was, you're the one with the business. So if everyone else gets laid off, fine, you're the top of the heap. So you're the front row of the business. So that was a position I was like, I need to be in this position. It's the only secure position around, really, is that the person who has the relationships.
But you're a young guy, and you're still a young guy. But back then, even you're a young guy living in the corporate world, and the folks like Goldman Sachs you talked about and others, had to be a challenge for you to forge those relationships. And what did you lever to get that type of advantage moving forward?
Yeah, I found myself in, and I think this is Will Smith movie, The Pursuit of Happiness. I could be getting the movie wrong, but it's a Will Smith movie where he's pitching some guy on a deal, and they go to, I don't know, the Yankees game, and they're in the box. And Will Smith is like, hey, I want to talk to you about this account or something. And the guy turns to him and goes, hey, you know what, man? I did a little background research on you. And look, nothing personal. I had no idea you were so young. I can't do a deal with you, but let's just enjoy the game, man. It's great meeting you. And he's like really disheartened. I had a lot of those moments where I'd be at some thing, like at a fancy gathering with somebody, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm from Thatcher Profit. And they'd be like, oh, great, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be talking with them, and they'd go, how long have you been with the firm? Because one, I have a baby face, and two, when I'm like, what's a leveraged buyout? They're like, wait a minute. And I wasn't trying to fake it. I was really honest, because I knew that if I tried to fake it, they'd be like, something's up with that guy, because I can feel those people out. I didn't want to be one of those guys. I had a lot of those moments where they were like, hey, good to meet you. Call me in 5-10 years. We'll do some business. And I remember being like, not sure this is going to do me any good in the next 18 months when I need to get a new job right now. So I started to really focus on those things. And I realized this is a skill set that translates to pretty much everything. And it didn't make a whole lot of sense for me to build deep-rooted financial relationships in the finance industry if I was not planning on staying in the finance industry, because I realized anywhere you're going to build relationships, it is always a long game. So I didn't want to sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to commit to real estate finance for the next 20 years and make my relationships here and dig roots here, because that's when you end up with the golden handcuffs and you're like, I can't leave this industry. I've got a boat and I've got a boat payment and I've got a house payment and another house payment and 2 ex-wives and all my connections are in this industry. That's not something I wanted, and it's something I saw a lot of these other folks had. So I thought when they laid off everyone because of the recession, they gave me 9 months severance, full benefits, full salary, everything. So I took that money and invested it in my former company, basically living Wall Street salary, but doing a startup. So I had my seed capital and I went, these are the digital marketing and business. This is the niche I want to dig my roots in and be a part of. And that was what was most interesting to me, and it has since paid off with 11 million downloads a month. This is where that comes from. Is I've gone on a bunch of other podcasts like this one over the last 14 years, but also I get really good guests on the Jordan Harbinger show. You've seen Charles Koch, and if you're not a fan of Charles Koch, Kobe Bryant. It's a diverse group of people. It's not just billionaires and financiers, but there's a lot of really interesting folks on there. I do right by my audience. It's really easy to get someone to check out. I should say it's moderately easy to get someone to check out your podcast, but if you're not blowing them away with your content, they're just going to bounce, because there's literally like 1.6 million podcasts out there. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe only half of them are active, but tell me a television that has 600,000 channels. What are you going to watch? To be the one out, and the average, I think, podcast listener listens to 6 shows. So 1 in 100,000 podcasts you're going to be for that person. That's a pretty crappy roll of the dice. So whenever people are like, how do I grow my show? I'm like, first, make sure your content is just bulletproof awesome. Because if it's not, people will just scroll on. So it's got to have good production value and be great. Side note, it's one of the reasons I decided to stop doing YouTube this year, because I went, man, I'm focusing on all this YouTube stuff. I've got YouTube team. I've got video optimizers and editors and all this stuff, and I don't really care about it. So I had this sort of mediocre YouTube channel, and I was like, this isn't going to cut it. There are probably 1 billion YouTube channels or something thereabouts, right? 100 million. What do I know? But if I can have my podcast be in the top 0.1% or 0.01% or whatever slot we're in, shouldn't I hone that down instead of trying to make the mediocre thing get into the top, I don't know, 60, top half of all channels? What's the point? I need to focus on my competitive advantage. It worked for me last time. So that's where I'm at now.
So Jordan, for you and for many folks, whether it's our entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, independent contractors, I'm sure there are many with podcast wannabes. I get that. But was there a big break point for you in regards to, I had this guest and that was an avalanche of more guests, or how did it accumulate to where it's gone today? I mean, Ray Dalio, Mark Cuban, Kobe Bryant, you mentioned, and these are gigantic guests. But look, that's incredibly impressive. We're not going to deflate that in any way, shape, or form. But it's you that's doing this. The guests are great. They're coming to talk on your show. It's you, Jordan, that is the magnet here. It is, and it's your audience. You're talking about relationship building. How do you get from one way to the next? And again, was there a big break for you?
So there's no big break. And that's one of the things I like about podcasting, because I know a lot of people on, I don't want to talk badly about any particular platform, but let's just say YouTube, right? I know, or blogging. Let's use blogging because it doesn't exist anymore. I know a lot of people who had a few viral blog posts and it made their whole career. And great, but do you want to base your business success on being the 1 in a million or whatever it is that beats the Google algorithm through luck plus genius plus work ethic? It doesn't make a lot of sense. And podcasting is one of those things that basically just rewards work ethic over time. So it's, if you do a good show and you do it consistently over X number of years, your audience stays with you for a really long time. And that builds your fan base. But something on Instagram, you have to have a bunch of viral shares, and then you've got the platform algorithm has to be on your side at least a couple of times during your tenure as the top 1% of Instagram or whatever it is. And then, oh, TikTok's popular. Get on TikTok and start over. Podcasting's not like that. It's an open ecosystem. You build your show, you build your following, and someone goes, oh, I don't use podcast apps now. I use Spotify. Great, I'm on Spotify. Oh, I don't really use podcast apps anymore because blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to listen from your website. Okay, cool. I got a great web player that works on mobile. I kind of want to use this other random new app that does this thing. Fine, go ahead on Linux. I don't care. It's just grab my RSS feed and throw it in that app and it'll work. And I don't, so the same thing that everybody hates about podcasting, and me too, it's a big problem, discoverability, where it's like, how the hell do people find your show? That actually works for you too, because people share good stuff via word of mouth, and then you're not going to get beat out because somebody had, I'm trying to find an example here that's realistic, but like on Instagram, it's, I could be giving like world-changing, life-changing financial advice or something. And then somebody else is, I'm giving mediocre financial advice, but I'm showing a lot of skin and I'm a 24-year-old attractive person. And it's, I follow them instead, and then you're done. And as you get older, your relevance on Instagram and social plummets. Podcasting, I listen to podcasts with hosts that are 50, 60 years old. I don't care. I listen to podcasts that have hosts that are in their 20s. I don't care. Because the visual element, all that sort of like, you got to be a bubbly, cool that is out the window with podcasting. You have to be a competent person. There's an entertainment value, but it's secondary to the knowledge value that's in there. And that's where my competitive advantage really is. If I were a 24-year-old and I had a six-pack abs, I'd probably be focusing on Instagram and YouTube more. But I'm a 40-year-old with a dad bod, so I focus on podcasting, and it worked out really well. Honestly, with 14 years of data, I look at it now, I go, podcasting has only been growing and growing. What happened to Snapchat? Remember when that was the major thing 4 years, 5 years ago? Does that even exist anymore? I guess it does, but I don't know. I literally don't know anyone that uses it. Maybe I do, but they're like 17 and we don't talk about social media. I don't use TikTok. I don't have a TikTok account. And that's fine. TikTok is huge. Cool. Call me in 5 years when no one cares about it. Or maybe it'll be Instagram that no one cares about. It's certainly Facebook. I don't know how long you've been in business, but remember like a decade ago where if you didn't have a Facebook page, everyone was like, your business is going to be done. All business is going to be done on Facebook page. Websites are going to be obsolete. Tell me how your freaking Facebook page is doing, man. How's your Facebook page these days, Rod? Does it exist? I don't even have one because I don't log in and I don't care. And I've never done any business on my Facebook page. I don't have a lot of likes. Doesn't matter. Irrelevant. So you're not building your business in someone else's platform, which is what I see a lot of people doing. That's one of the reasons why podcasting is superior to these other platforms, because those you might see, I got 100,000 followers on TikTok in a month. Cool, man. And then 3 months later, oh, my business is defunct because the algorithm changed because somebody in an office in Beijing sneezed and changed something to the left instead of to the right. And now nobody is looking at videos of dudes talking to each other on Zoom anymore. It's over.
Everything you're saying, I get it. So 14 years of focusing on the podcast to get your message out to the point where you said yourself, you're in the 0.00% of all podcasters in the world. What were some key lessons you learned along the way to say, I'm not going to do that again, or you know what, this seems to work? And I'll give you some examples because I hear this from everyone. Your podcast needs to be 7 minutes. Your podcast needs to be this. You need to have so many guests. You need to have no guests. It needs to be all about you. I've heard every single position, but let's face it, Jordan, you're the King Kamehameha of podcast. So you're the master. Have you learned any lessons, or there is no lesson?
It's funny. I literally still get feedback from people. It'll be on LinkedIn. It'll be like some CPA who doesn't have a show or anything. And they'll be like, you know what, Jordan, you know what your problem is? Podcasts should be maximum 14 minutes long. The average commute, 15 minutes. You need to give them a minute to get going, put it on, and you need to give them a minute to chill in the parking lot. Your podcast is way too long. And I'm squinting because I'm like, what planet are you on where you are in a position to give this type of advice? It's just hilarious because I just figured this person is the guy in the office that like everyone hates and he has no idea because he's like that unaware. Those types of rules are not true. There's not a whole lot of data. That's a cool theory that people listen only on their commute and that if it's longer than the commute that they're not finishing it. There's absolutely no data that backs this up. If you can kill a show in 30 minutes, you can do someone's average commute, round trip, whatever it is, great. But if you have really good content, people make time to listen to it. That's the whole point. If that commute theory was real, then we would see a 90% plus drop in podcasting now that no one's commuting because everyone's working from home. But we don't. We see an increase in podcasting. So I guess that whole thing was a load of crap. A lot of those theories about, oh, it should only be you. It should be, oh, you got to have big guests. Those are put forward by people who are making content marketing about podcasting that have shows that have 3 people listening to it, if you count their mom. Those are not people that have a lot of data. Those are not people that know what they're talking about. Even if you got somebody from a giant podcast host that could look at the data, you're still not getting a majority of the market of data. The only people who are going to be able to tell us if any of those things are true, and they're probably never going to tell us, is going to be Spotify, and it's going to be in like 5 years or 3 years, because they don't have enough market share right now to tell us what the truth is. But in 3 to 5 years, when they're like half of all podcast listeners or some significant amount, right now they're significant but not big enough,
right,
they can see how much people have streamed and played, but they're never going to share that data with us. So forget about the idea that some blogger who has a show about blogging about podcasts knows what they're talking about. This is somebody who's trying to get you to hire them as a consultant because that's how they make their money. It's that sort of, I call it I won't say it on your show, but I call it the BS industrial complex. That's the PG-13 version.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's the bullshit industrial complex where some 26-year-old kid is like, oh, I know a lot about podcasting because I've read an ebook about it and I have my own that has 300 listeners. I'm going to tell you it has 1 million listeners because I'm going to add up all the years that I've had it and then multiply that by 10 and round up a little bit and blah, blah, blah. And so some dentist is, I keep hearing I need a podcast. And then that kid sells them podcast consulting services for $1,000 a month for 6 months and thinks he's in business. That's the kind of stuff that drives me crazy because it perpetuates these quote unquote rules that absolutely have no data. People go, oh yeah, your podcast is way too long. Awesome. Tell the 11 million people downloading it every month that it's too long and they should stop because it's inconvenient for you personally.
So I only have a few minutes left with you, so I got to everyone had to get more with you because you obviously are amazing. But I hate these questions. I know you hate these questions, but I'm going to answer anyway. So is there one thing I would say, hey, look, if you want to create an audience, think about these things. Guys, look, you all got to dive into Jordan's content and really dive in deep. You'll never build what he built. I'm going to say that right out. No one's going to build what you built. Maybe one person in the world will figure it out. But for those who want to grow my audience via podcast, what are some basic things to say, hey, guys, think about this?
So what I've noticed is, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about before I started getting on one about those content rules. People think, oh, you've got to have big guests. No. My Kobe Bryant episode probably has 10% more downloads than the other ones. And then if you look at how many people stayed listening to me because they found that one, it's not a high number, right? It's not like you don't see these bumps that stick. It's not about standing on the shoulders of giants or any of that stuff you read from marketers, which is where I was going with that last point. It's about, look, I'm an attorney by trade. When you have a client as a lawyer, and same thing with a financial consultant or something like that, you have a fiduciary duty, right, in many cases to your client. So I, as a podcaster, do what is best for my listener. So if I get offered $25,000 for bullshitty nootropic supplements that are going to supposedly make people smarter, I just turn the money down because I know it's crap. Same thing with a guest. I get offered routinely like, hey, have 25K, have this fitness guy on. He'll talk about his protein powder company. You can put your regular ads in there. Just pretend it's a regular guest. I turn that money down because it's one thing to waste an hour of my time interviewing a bad guest by mistake. Imagine wasting 250,000 people's time.
Yeah.
That's enough cumulative man hours to cure probably any major disease, right? So think about how much time you're wasting because you wanted to buy half of a new car. Every decision we make in the company is always what is best for the listener. And then if something is, okay, I'm on the fence on that. It's not bad for the listener. Is it going to be good for the listener? Yes. Okay. Is it also going to be good for the business? Yes. But if something is bad for the listener, the calculation doesn't even go any further. And that's why people trust me and trust the Jordan Harbinger show. And then that's why people listen to episodes that they don't think they're going to be interested in because they trust that I'm going to deliver good content. And I do that consistently. And if I do an interview with somebody and it's crappy, I trash it because, again, wasting an hour of my own time, not great. I spent maybe 8 hours prepping for it. Let's say I waste 10 hours of my own time. Okay. Mm-hmm. Wasting 150,000 or 250,000 hours of other people's time, not okay. That's like a crime against humanity. So I never make the calculation, I've already done a bunch of work on this, or, but it's so lucrative. Like, I just don't do that. And that is long-term thinking. If I'd sold out to the cash grab 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't be here right now. But since I turned down low-hanging fruit, easy money, scam money back in the day, and still do turn that stuff down, I'm going to be here for 20 more years doing this. I appreciate that. I'm good at that, and I'm going to stay good at that because also at a certain point, you don't need more money, and that's a really easy, so the decision gets easier over time. It gets easier over time. And it's funny because whenever I see people who are blowing it, and I'm like, why are you selling a scam real estate fund, you POS? It's because they haven't realized that money's not going to make them happy, so they constantly try to get more. And then those are the people where you're like, why are you selling a calendar that's $100 that comes with a day planner that you can get online for free? It's Google Calendar with less functionality, except it has your face on it. Like, what are you doing? You start to become those people, and those are the people that in 5 years, everyone's like, that guy, remember that guy from that ad? Yeah, what an idiot. You don't want to be that person, right? You want to be the person where they go, yeah, I've been listening to him for 9 years. So good. You should listen to him. I get that a lot. That's the highest compliment. Somebody who's been listening for a decade. If you've been listening to me for a week, welcome to the show. But if most of your listeners have only been listening to you for a couple weeks, you're doing it wrong. Your advertising might be great. Your top of your funnel might be great. But if people aren't sticking with you, you're blowing it. Imagine all your relationships with your significant others only last 6 months. The problem is you. You're the common denominator at that point. So that's the way I look at it. It's if you've only had friends and those friends have only known you for 3 months, you're probably a bad person.
Oh, there you go. Jordan, can't believe I'm going to ask you this, but people want to get more of you. They don't know where to get it. Where do they get it?
Yeah, sure. The podcast is called The Jordan Harbinger Show. It's at jordanharbinger.com. Anybody who is interested in the networking stuff, the course is on there. It's free course. And look, I'm at Jordan Harbinger on Twitter and Instagram. People can always hit me there. LinkedIn. I answer all my stuff. It takes me a while, but I answer everything. That's probably another point about engagement that we just didn't even touch on. It's all about depth of relationship. I don't want a million fans that are like, yeah, I look at one picture of his every 2 months on Instagram. I want people who are like, I write to him and he writes me back. It's great. Oh, I should send him funny memes on the internet. Like, those are the kind of fans that I want because those people are engaged. They're worth 1 million times more than a casual fan.
They're absolutely worth 1 million. And you all got, look, it's about 1 million. I think about 11 million downloads a month with the one, the only Mr. Jordan Harbinger. Jordan, 20 years Jordan from now will be a little older than me, but I can't wait to see the 20-year Jordan from now, years of Jordan Harbinger.
Probably be retired. Or I'll be one of those guys who's like on a platform and has no idea how the platform works because I'm old and I'm just like, screw it. They're printing money. Maybe I'll pull one of those things and sell out to Spotify by then. We'll see.
As always, look, Jordan gave you so much knowledge. It doesn't mean anything, quite frankly, unless you go out and do it, because knowing isn't doing. So go out and do it, apply it, and grow your own audience. And by the way, right before this show, just going to tell you, I was on Jordan's website. I downloaded his course. I actually started it while I was waiting for him to join this show. You got to do his course. Absolutely 100%. Jordan, thank you so much for your time. Everyone else, take care. This is Rod Santomassimo with The Massimo Show. I want to thank you for listening to this version of The Massimo Show. And please go out and share this with your friends, your colleagues. Heck, share it with your dog. Just share it. And more importantly, just give me some feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. We all grow from understanding what our audience wants to hear. So until next time, this is Rod Santomassimo with The Massimo Show. Hey, this is Rod Santomassimo with the Massimo Group. And did you know over the last 12 plus years, we've worked with thousands of independent contractors, solopreneurs, and small business owners in helping them achieve the business and the life that they've always desired. To learn more how we could possibly help you achieve your goals, please visit www.massimo.coach. That's www.massimo.coach.